there's got to be a way to make it matter, not just what you choose to change the outcome, the combination of many very small choices, which is what real life is for most of us, for all of us. Hey, so Demon Dev here. I've been doing a lot of thinking about my project. And one thing that I was thinking about was basically that when I started out the project, it was about being a dating sim that was more compelling or interesting or realistic than other games that were in the genre. But a big part of me was thinking, like, okay, well, this is a cash grab, like easy in, get in, get out. Make the game. Maybe it won't be the game that I'm most proud of, or adhere to some sort of high art standard. But whatever. And pretty early on, one of the first challenges that I ran into with work on Double Demons was dialogue system. Okay, so I want to work on mechanics that model talking to girls or guys in real life, flirting, being indirect, being sarcastic, small talk, deep talk, a huge, an avid hobbyist when it comes to philosophy and debating or arguing. I love all of that a lot. So the game took on an almost spiritual quality for me, where I realized that a lot of the things that I care about, maybe this was the perfect vessel to explore, all the different podcasts that I would listen to or books that I would read about philosophy and personal development, relating to other people, relationships, dynamics. So I just kind of felt drawn deeper and deeper into, why is this sort of like satisfying experience that I'm looking for, like to create in the game, and based on my own dating history. I did a lot of dating in college, both successful and unsuccessful attempts with many different people. What was I trying to get across or like explore? And as I got deeper into it, I realized that, well, there's nothing in all the games that I've ever played that felt like there was a real choice when it came to character relationships, or even like diplomacy with different war factions. There was a right choice and a wrong choice, and if it was presented as a dialogue choice rather than ally or enemies, if it wasn't explained directly, if it was just some sort of banter or communication options that was part of a larger conversation, there was really never any indication, not just which is the right or wrong answer, but what the properties of those choices were. It's just arbitrary dialogue in an arbitrary scene, and something may come from it or nothing may come from it. There's just as often, well, much more often, an illusion of choice. And what I mean by that is just, it didn't matter what you picked. They were going to say the same thing anyways, or at best case, you get flavor text, and then occasionally you would have a choice that would branch significantly, but it would be such a shocking, shift, whether you go from allies to enemies, or, them saying yes to a romance cutscene or no. And the no was more so just like it not happening, and that was it. So you have to load a save to, choose the other option. It was always came down to, there's a predetermined outcome that must be selected. And if you deviate from it, then you are wrong or bad. There's no open-endedness. There's no, special personal way that the player, or like me in playing those games, could go about choosing different things or trying different strategies. And as I started trying to build my own dialogue choice system and my own categories of data structures for how one dialogue gets to the next and how the game decides, what's right and wrong. I realized that it struck a chord at a deep appeal to philosophy in terms of agency versus determinism, and I feel very passionately that expression matters a lot, and it's not just about like agreeing on the ideas, but how you present the ideas, and that I think that makes a big difference, and maybe the biggest difference when it comes to relationship. It's it's not just what you say, but how you say it, and that is relationships. Like just because you agree on things, the way you implement them and go to act it out, execution matters quite a lot. You can have all the best intentions of the world, which I think of as ideas, but how you implement those intentions is, I think, what defines people as humans. And I think that's a beautiful part that exists in my favorite game mechanics and other games. There's multiple ways to do things. So dialogue choice ultimately has always frustrated me in really every way that I've ever seen it been done, where there's a right answer and a wrong answer, and you have to basically just guess. Sometimes you get context clues. A lot of the times you don't. You have to guess what's the right option, and the wrong option is always wrong. So it became really, really like a spiritual calling almost, where I was like, oh, wow, like I've got to find the way to make a dialogue choice, the angry or the friendly way, both be valid options, like in terms of play style. Like first off, there's got to be no game overs because you said one thing versus the other. Because that fundamentally means not only is one choice the right or wrong option, depending on like the outcome, like trying to progress or ruin a relationship, but the game will stop functioning if you choose one choice. So I couldn't have that. But then I also wanted people to be able to choose both options sometimes and progress the relationship given enough options in an accumulating way so that there would be multiple play styles. And in the early days, and I have some podcasts where I was trying to figure out how I could go about this. I was thinking of, okay, in first-person shooters, you have, submachine guns, which are great in medium range exchanges, and you have the knife, which is really bad except in close range. Those are two different ways to approach the same goal, which is killing the enemy. Similarly, with dialogue choices and relationships, if you're trying to get the girl to go on a date with you or increase their awareness or attraction towards you, there should be a submachine gun version of that. Something that's more generally effective, maybe just like general confidence or, being calm and relaxed. And, something that's more like a knife, maybe being kind of wild or quirky or goofy, maybe funny, but in a way that's not going to work in all situations. And in most situations, if you switch to knife immediately and run around in Call of Duty trying to get people in multiplayer before they get you, knife is not going to go super well. But if you maneuver really well, get behind people on the map, if you choose the right situations, then not only can you get ahead of the other person and you end up with the kill instead of them killing you, but it is a unique experience because that's so difficult to pull off. It's usually pretty satisfying. Like there's an execution animation or something like that. So yeah, a pretty long time ago, many years ago, I was like, I've got to figure out how you can get that depth of mechanic into dialogue choice. Like, and it might be bigger than just, oh, this is a new way to do things, but almost to like a philosophical approach to life and choices. there's got to be a way to make it matter, not just what you choose to change the outcome, but that the combination of many very small choices, which is what real life is for most of us, for all of us, is thousands of little like micro choices every day, accumulating to have tiny impacts on our relationships. I don't think most of us are micromanaging that, but when we're being aware of others, we try to be nicer sometimes and try to be maybe a little bit less nice sometimes to give people the hints and indications of, how much we want to spend time with them or not spend time with them. So, yeah, that became super important to me. And I think I've felt bad for a long time because that took me on a long journey that I'm still on to figure out, okay, with that level of complexity, with finding some way to accumulate these really small micro effects on relationships in the moment by having choices that don't immediately result in massively branching options, but have tiny impacts on the relationship that are somehow communicated to the player through feedback and other ways immediately, so you can get an idea of the types of effects tiny little choices like that are making, like, being a little bit sassier or a little bit more serious, across like hundreds of choices with one character, maybe even just in one day. So maybe thousands of small choices with me pursuing that because it spoke to me much more of the way that real life is, and dating in real life and relationships in real life, and just like the distinction of like what's the play style, what is the masterable mechanics, like skill-based dialogue. What does that mean? Well, skill means that multiple choices are valid and you choose the best one situationally. If one choice is always right arbitrarily, it's not a matter of skill, it's a matter of arbitrarily choosing correctly. But if different contexts could make either choice good in different contexts, like that's the depth that exists in so many other games, like in MOBAs like League of Legends. You have magic damage and physical damage and other damages too, but because of that, it's based on the context, changes a lot of things. So as a tank on one team, you can look at the enemy and be like, okay, they are all magic damage, I'm just going to buy all magic resist. And then if somebody on the enemy team is like, oh wow, this tank is a real problem, I'm going to build attack damage anyways because I can kind of make it work. And then that's the one person that can seriously do damage to the tank. I think that's really exciting. Whereas normally that person would not be building attack damage, because of the situational changes, or in my case with the dialogue dating sim, because the relationship values are somewhere, you might have to change tact. If you're in a relationship, or if you have a friend that maybe you're constantly being nice to, you didn't think too much of it. You just like being a nice, gracious person, not in any kind of hyperbolic way, but just generally friendly. And then you notice, oh, wait a minute, the way that the relationship has kind of progressed, they like me a lot, but they feel really guilty because I'm nice all the time. That, like, watching that accumulation might, in the way that I'm building the systems of Double Demons, tell the player, you know what, they are feeling guilty. One way to relieve guilt on other people is to be a little bit playful and sassy. So maybe it's not normally something they feel comfortable with, like poking at the other person, but it might actually relieve like a sort of indebtedness that they feel towards you. Like maybe you're always showing up with an extra coffee because that's just like your routine, and they're like, feeling kind of bad about that. Maybe you, I don't know, decide that you're going to poke them for, not getting enough sleep and something like that. And maybe that rubs them the wrong way, but they can have their own sassy response, and some of that pressure could be lifted. And that might be something that they would be extremely, hurt by or uncomfortable with that kind of like negative comment. Otherwise, those sorts of situational factors represent something I think really deep, which is emotional awareness of the other person and the unique relationship that you have. And that might not exist with somebody else's playthrough where they're maybe choosing more balanced options that aren't just generally friendly. And there's no guilt there. So saying the exact same thing contextually would not be a good play. Just like if the enemy tank is building a balanced amount of armor and magic resist, maybe you shouldn't get lots of like AD attack damage weapons for your champion if it's a more magic focused champion. And so I think that sort of complexity is beautiful and inspiring, and something that I think could be part of something that's like a big shift in how stories are told and characters are interacted with, something that's way more open-ended in a way that's not easy to predict because of the accumulation of tons of tiny decisions. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that players understand the minutia of in every single choice. Like I wanted to accumulate it, which means making way more dialogue choices that are lower stakes. So if I give you like 100 choices in a long drawn out conversation that only takes up, like in real life, like, 5 or 10 minutes of time, you can see the interaction in real time. But really what you're going to take away is, okay, what was the net impact of that entire conversation? Like, oh, they're laughing a little bit harder at my jokes. They're smiling at me a little bit more. I see the heart meter moved up and the attraction meter moved up. Oh, that was good. You can look at the big picture, and that's great. And the same way with League of Legends, we've got health bars and mana bars. You can see, okay, let's go for an auto attack. You can drop an attack, and I'm like, I wonder, it'll probably do some damage. And you're like, oh, that did not do very much damage, and they, traded auto back at me, and that did a lot of damage. Maybe I shouldn't do that so much. And you trade in different ways, and then you start to develop a bigger picture of like, okay, if I wait for them to use all their spells on the minion wave or whatever, they miss one, then I can go and trade autos and shoot my stuff, my spells at them. And that'll be a trade. You don't need to know the minutia of every single like point of damage relative to the percentage of their total health from all your spells and attacks. You can just kind of watch and see the effects of hundreds of tiny choices accumulate, and then develop bigger tactics based on feel. And you could be wrong about, when you can like all in on somebody or tower dive, but that kind of extremely complex, lots of tiny, relatively low stakes choices usually coming together in a unique play style is something that I think absolutely can exist with dialogue choices and stories and characters and relationships, but I don't think it has yet. And I don't think the way to get there is through RNG, because that can fundamentally turn any choice into a good or bad choice, not through contextual factors, but just randomness that doesn't mean anything. I'm not even a fan of critical strike, which is percent chance based, but even that is not fully RNG because your critical chance is influenced by how many items and what your percentage of critical chance is. But regardless, I think RNG is important to drop, which is separating somewhat from the D&D style of deciding these things. The uncertainty is cool, but I think you can get to the uncertainty without RNG just by increasing the complexity of simulated relationship factors. Like something that I'm tracking in the game would be, friendship, attraction, frustration, guilt. All of these combine based on a contextual reaction formula that the AI uses for different contexts. So you have one context for a friendly conversation, for a chat, and a different context and perceived intention by the AI for something that's more flirty, with a kind of close proximity, isolated hangout after like maybe a high energy event like a concert or a dance or something like that. It's going to have a totally different vibe and allow for different types of communication, and will be reacted to separately. It's going to lean way heavier on how attracted they are to you or repulsed, whether they're going to be open to advances, both verbally or physically. Whereas in a more friendly, it's morning and we're heading to class, is not necessarily going to be as conducive to drawing on their attraction for you. They might be attracted to you, but now is not the time to greet morning breath together. So yeah, it's for me, the project Double Demons. It's not just about making a game. It's about chasing something that I was surprised to kind of stumble onto, but realized that it was a way bigger calling for me to chase. I don't think that I've by any means finished what I'm trying to do, but I am inspired by the calling to try and do something different when it comes to accumulating small hundreds or thousands of small decisions in a way that is, philosophically, you are open to choose different emotional expressions of the same ideas or different ideas to different characters, and kind of watch that all take form and see contextually what your options are. Certainly I have friends or girls that I've dated or tried to go on dates with where the dynamic was a combination of factors where banter and teasing each other was very comfortable and very fun. And there's been other people and other girls that I've talked to and wanted to go on dates with where that was not as comfortable for one or both of us, where it kind of felt like maybe one person was being pushed too hard or not enjoying like being kind of put on the spot like that. And, maybe that was totally fine, or maybe that was a deal breaker, or just like, showed us an incompatibility, or moved the relationship in a way where we weren't meeting in the same place and not feeling the same feelings that we may have been feeling earlier on. And I think that that's a really exciting thing to explore, and not just for the research aspect of it, but I think it would be fun too. I think that games could have more depth, not just the game I'm making, but that I could open up a new way of thinking about these sorts of ideas. So yeah, anyways, I'm really excited, and I've been trying to record my thoughts when I'm feeling super energized and excited, and remembering what some of the mission is about for me, working on this project, because you don't always get that when you've got a project that matters to you. Sometimes you sit down and you're excited about it, and other times you sit down and you're not excited about it. So I think that's a good thing. So this is for myself as much as for anyone else. I am really excited about it, and I think it's really cool, and I am especially grateful that I was able to find the interest a long time ago, where I have plenty of time, more than enough time left in my lifetime to pursue whatever I think the project needs in order to get those things working and get it where other people can play it and play around with it. So yeah, have a good one. I'll be in touch.